Hello, YouTube and Whooper Club fans. I'm Michael, aka Fruit Taco, aka the coach of the Route 1 Burbs, here bringing you another playoff match from Season 12 of the Whooper Club League. And continuing the playoff coverage with me is Chad, the coach of the Seattle Steamrollers. Thanks for coming back, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to give some more commentary. Hopefully this video might be a little bit shorter than the last one, but
Oh, well,
we'll see.
hopefully. This week, it's the number 1 seed of the Johto Conference, the Buffalo Bouffalant, up against the 5th seed, the Cincinnati Incineroar. These teams met in Week 3, where the Bouffalant came away with a 5-0 win. This being the feature match, though, you know it's not going to be that easy again, though, so let's hop right into it. The Bouffalant are made up of Talonflame, Lycanroc Dusk, Garchomp, who cannot Terra, Arcanine, Goldengo, Slitherwing, Toxtricity, Wo-Chien, Azumarill, Gastrodon, and Avalugg. The opponents are the Incineroar with Pawmot, Espathra, Palafin, who cannot Terra, Hydreigon, Annihilape, Sylveon, Brute Bonnet, Donphan, Rabsca, Fortress, and Garganacl. Seeing how the teams stack up in terms of speed, the Bouffalant have the edge with the 2 fastest mons as well as tons of strong priority options. With Speed Boost, Espathra, and some priority of their own, though, the Incineroar aren't that far behind. The Incineroar have big fairy and flying weaknesses we could see the Bouffalant try to take advantage of with Azumarill and maybe some Terra options. Meanwhile, the Bouffalant don't have many weaknesses to dial in on from the side of the Incineroar, but there's a slight ground weakness, and Ghost, Psychic, and Water are relatively unresisted, which the Incineroar have plenty of powerful options to try and target those types. The Incineroar have a bulky team with plenty of setup options, but the Bouffalant have plenty of walls and threats of their own. I think both teams actually, this could be a very interesting matchup. I think both teams could go for a variety of strategies, but the match is probably going to come down to some good predictions and seeing whose switch-ins get chipped down first. What do you see looking at these two teams, Chad?
Yeah, I would definitely favor the Bouffalant just based on past performance, but I think it'll be a good match. I agree on the Incineroar being pretty heavy on sweepers. I think the Espathra looks pretty strong in this matchup, although I guess it's strong in a lot of matchups. The only real counter I see is maybe Goldengo, so I think that could be something where you can maybe have a strategy around trying to break through the Goldengo and then go for an Espathra sweep. I would expect Nate to be prepared for that though, because like that's something that the Incineroar have historically done in the season. In general, I guess I see the Incineroar as more of a wall breaking team, and the Bouffalant more as a team with the walls. So maybe we can see how it's going to fare, the wall breakers versus the walls. I would expect the Incineroar to have a more setup oriented strategy than the Bouffalant, though. I think the Bouffalant usually go for kind of the instant power, or just having breakers and cleaners and that sort of thing. Maybe they might run an ST here or there, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the Bouffalant play a, very position-heavy strategy. They have, a lot of bulk, but rather than, straight-up walling, they just, always have a good switch-in. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a question of, do those switch-ins get chipped down first, or does, do the Incineroar just kind of run out of HP and steam on, their setup sweepers and such to actually be able to close out the game. So it'll be interesting. Let's see how both coaches chose to approach the match, though, looking at their teams. First up for the Bouffalant is the golden boy himself, Scarfed Modest Goldengo. Max special attack and enough speed to just outspeed the whole Incineroar team with that Scarf, and still outspeeding bulky Annihilape without it, with the extra EVs dumped into some bulk. Shrek lets it cripple a wall like Garganacl switching into it, with Shadow Ball and Make It Rain as its stab moves, and Thunderbolt as coverage, and then Terra Grass to lose its dark weakness while resisting the usually super effective ground moves in Palafin's water-type arsenal. I really like the trick set here, and the only thing I might change is maybe choosing, Dazzling Gleam to hit the dark and fighting types over Thunderbolt, but, I mean, Palafin is a monster, and I can't really criticize carrying a heavy-hitting option for that, or something like a water-terrid Garganacl. What do you think about this set?
I think it's a very standard set. It looks pretty good to me, just like a standard Scarf set. I agree that the Palafin is a threat. I could maybe see trying to go a different route for Palafin counters, though, just because I think even Jet Punch would be pretty strong with that. Obviously, it does have the Terra for in the back. But I would be curious to see how these EVs end up panning out, too, just because maybe it would have been better to run a little more speed. I would be curious if this is for anything in particular. But yeah, overall, I don't really have any complaints with the set.
Yeah. Next, we have bulky offensive Garchomp holding a Yachi Berry to live in Ice Spinner or Ice Punch. Just shy of max speed Jolly lets it outspeed max speed Palafin, with the max HP letting Garchomp live a few hits. Compensating for the lack of attack investment, this Chomp has Sword Stance to power up Earthquake, Outrage, and Dragon Claw. Terra Bug is interesting here, letting it resist Grass, Ground, and Fighting. It's probably mostly for the fighting resist, looking at the Incineroar's lineup, but I wouldn't say I'm super in love with it. I think the set's fine, but it really wants the SD, and I'm not sure how much that Terra is doing for it, but it could be able to find several chances to set up and get big damage on an important threat, and knowing Nate, he knows exactly what he wants to get damage on with this thing.
Yep. I agree. I'm not a huge fan of the Yachi Berry. I mean, I know it can be situationally useful, but I would maybe want to see something more like Rocky Helmet or that sort of thing. I also think like for setup, a different Terra would maybe be more useful. Like I just offhand I could see Fairy. I feel like Bug has like just a lot of super effective coverage that can hit it. So
Yeah, or I like the idea of like Rocky Helmet, like even like Terra Water, just to like be a really good Palafin check. If you go like bulky with the rough skin Rocky Helmet damage wrecking up.
yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, because if you're gonna commit to the Terra on it, like I think a defensive Terra like that would be nice. And yeah, because like you could just do Terra, set up an attack, especially because or honestly, even if you're looking at resist berries, I could see a fairy resist berry being nice for the Espathra sweep, kind of as an emergency counter, because I could see that being a big threat to the team. So.
Yeah. Following Chomp, we have another physical powerhouse in Banded Azumarill running max attack, adamant, and some weird VGC looking spread. Its speed lets it outspeed bulky Sylveon with a little creep, and then it's got a lot of bulk, with the HP carefully calculated so that something. I'm sure there's a reason for the 4 EVs in each defense, but the best I've got, looking at the HP he was hitting and the HP was avoiding, is he lives 4 turns of Salt Cure passive if he doesn't take any damage from getting hit with Salt Cure. I not sure exactly what the HP is for, but it's Nate. He's calculated it pretty carefully, I'm sure. Anyway, Aqua Jet, Play Rough, Liquidation, and Ice Spinner let it smack everything around, especially if Terra Water is boosting those water moves, primarily that Aqua Jet. I think Ice Spinner is an interesting choice, as everything it hits super effectively is already hit super effectively by one of Azu's other stabs. But this could just be nice redundancy to be able to avoid needing to switch and change moves out later in the game depending on what's left. What do you think about the Azumarill here?
I think very very standard, very very strong Incineroar set. I think it's probably a good defensive check to stuff like Palafin because it resists the water, ice, and fighting, which are the most common offensive types. I agree the EV spread looks a little weird, but 4 EVs here there isn't going to make or break your set, so I still think it's pretty solid.
Yep. And we've got the third physical threat in the row here with max attack, adamant, Slitherwing. Covert Cloak and heavy HP investment make this a pretty good Garganackle check with enough speed to outspeed the standard Uber's Bulk Up Annihilate set, at least on the Showdown calc. Close combat is probably its attack of choice, with First Impression and U-Turn giving it powerful priority and pivoting options, especially powered up by that Terra Bug. Lastly, Zen Headbutt hits Annihilate as well as Palmot or Pokemon like Sylveon that resist both of Slitherwing's stabs. What do you think about this one? I think that First Impression is a great move, but it's always easy to play around with like Protect or something, so it always is interesting to me whether or not it turns out being good.
Yeah, I think that's a win-win though, because if you make your opponent waste a slot on Protect, I think that's kind of a win in and of itself. Like, yes, it can be scouting a little bit, but like, what are they going to do? Get 6% leftovers recovery, and then you probably know their set a little more. What type of item they have, maybe if they're doing Protect. And I think it's a decent set. I guess overall commentary on the team though, it does seem like it's a little heavy physically. Like if you look at the special attackers, there's really Toxtricity and Golden Go, and Toxtricity is a dedicated lead, so you have to kind of count on that maybe dying a little early, and then Golden Go is more of a revenge killer. So I could see the team maybe being a little weak to like even something like Garganackle. Like I know that this set is like, or that he has two counters kind of specifically to Garganackle for the Salt Cure, but like you could imagine maybe a good defensive Terra type and then like an Iron defense set, and then pretty much all you have to worry about is Golden Go and Toxtricity, and Toxtricity might be dead the first couple turns of the match. So
Yeah. Moving on, we've actually got another covert cloak here, this time on max HP and defense Wo-Chien. Relaxed nature is a mistake actually left on there from when Leaf Storm had been on the set, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Knock off is useful utility, while Ruination, Protect, and Leech Seed, which actually does affect Garganackle. Let it break and stall just about anything, with Terra Ghost letting it be immune to fighting attacks like Body Press or Drain Punch. I think this is a pretty solid set, being able to stall out Annihilate and Garganackle, although with nothing for Brute Bonnet, it could lead to some awkward predictions later in the game. I think the Terra Ghost is also, like, it's a double-edged sword. It does let you, like, pretty hard wall the Garganackle at that point, but, you can use it to dodge one Drain Punch from Annihilate, but then suddenly you're weak to the Rage Fist. So, depending on how early he commits to that, if he commits to this Terra, it could be really awkward later in the game. What do you think?
yeah, I definitely like this set. I think Nate has brought Wo-Chien a lot as his quote unquote dedicated Terra, just because Wo-Chien has a very good stat distribution but a very bad defensive typing. I think the Ghost is also helpful for spin blocking, which I think he has
True.
two really good spin blockers, right? He has Golden Go, which is sort of like the ultimate spin blocker because he doesn't even default doesn't even work, and then you'll have this as kind of a spin blocker. If I had to guess going into the match, I would say that this is probably the most likely Terra. So I know we've been kind of nitpicking the Terra types maybe a little bit before, but I think this is probably the most likely one. Maybe this or Toxtricity if there's a good opportunity to do a Boom Burst in it. I would agree that it's probably not the best Annihilate counter, but I feel like the Golden Go and Azumarill are more the dedicated Annihilate checks, at least in my mind.
Oh yeah, and especially with like Annihilate, if you're, immune to the Drain Punch, you're just looking to get it in range of something else to KO it, especially if it's, like a slower, bulky set.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it matches it up to like a Brute Bonnet, just because like the Grass Darks usually don't do anything to each other, but that suddenly you go Ghost and you're weak to Dark, but Brute Bonnet can have close combat. It's interesting. Also, you lose your, of course, Spore immunity, but you have the Spore immunity of Goldengo, so there's a lot of redundancy built into kind of all of these roles, and we'll see how useful it all ends up being. Lastly, though, we have Toxtricity, which the coach told me was a dedicated Sash lead. Unfortunately, this set has another mistake, as it doesn't outspeed that standard Annihilate set again, which he meant to do like he did on Slitherwing. But instead that investment went more towards bulk, which, well, a Sash lead doesn't really need. Boomburst and Overdrive, boosted by Punk Rock and coming off of max special attack Modest, can really hurt just about anything, and Toxic Spikes and Encore let it provide some utility. I really like the Toxic Spikes, which are a great way to chip down bulky setup mons like Espathra and Annihilate. And Encore, I think, is there mostly as a cheeky way to mess with Pokemon like Annihilate or Donphan, going for moves like Bulk Up or Stealth Rock turn 1. I really like this set, though, as I think Toxic Spikes are so good in this matchup, although I think I might have gone for something like Thunder Wave over Encore, which just sounds a bit more reliable. What do you think about the Toxtricity here?
I definitely like it as a lead. I really like the Toxic Spikes combined with the spin blocking. I always like Encore as a move, but I feel like Encore you maybe want a little more speed on that, especially if you're, I obviously already kind of called out the miss speed there. But overall, I think it's a good dedicated lead set. I'm not the biggest Focus Sash fan unless it's a dedicated lead, just because I think it really pressures you to keep hazards off. But yeah, I think it's solid.
Yeah,
I think
no.
that the normal Terra is there just for kind of reference. So I would hope that a dedicated lead wouldn't wind up Terraing unless you kind of keep it alive for later, because that's could be a little, ruining your surprise a little too early. So
Yeah, I mean, well, you can Obviously, I mean, he has no removal on this team, so if rocks or something get up, the sash becomes annoying. But yeah, like if you catch something on that status move, turn one, you trade hazards or you trade, your toxic spikes for a setup move or something, and then you can encore them into that and get basically a free switch out. Then yeah, that
Mhm.
like Punk Rock Boom Burst is absolutely terrifying, and the fact that you can boost that with Terra is just frankly insane. So yeah, I agree. I don't expect it to stick around, but if it does, it could be pretty scary.
And I mean, I feel like that sometimes people feel like just because they have a dedicated lead, that means they have to sack it. You know, like if it is in a
Mm-hmm.
good position to stay alive, like don't sack it. It's still a Pokemon, you know. So.
Yep. Well, moving on, let's check out what their opponents are bringing. First up for the Incineroar is Annihilate with a lot of HP and special defense investment with enough speed to outspeed bulky Arcanine. Bulk Up, Drain Punch, Range Fist, and Taunt is a pretty standard moveset, with Terrifier to be immune to Burn, just even further pushing that Arcanine matchup, which has the Defiant to get the actual net attack boost from the Intimidate. Lefties to stay healthy in front of it. Things looking very standard, but very strong. This is a set that I think Matt has favored a lot, and I'd expect it to do pretty well here, although I think the special defensive nature is a little interesting considering I do think that, we had mentioned previous, but also in kind of on the whole, I think the Bouffalant are a more physical team, so, I'm kind of wondering what he's expecting to try to set up in front of. What do you see this Annihilate doing?
Yeah, I think it's a very strong set, a very standard set. I I don't know like how conscious this was, but one thing that I would always encourage people to do when they're making their teams is don't take the Smogon set as gospel. You know, because I think the Smogon Annihilate set, especially defensive, but that's probably just based on whatever the OU metagame is. You know, like I think
Yeah,
you're right that when you look at Nate's team, it's more physically offensive. So I would probably lean more on the physical side. You know, like unless this is like really trying to like take a Shadow Ball or something from Golden Go. I think it would probably be more productive to try and take the physical hits a little better. I guess maybe he's going for bulk up will boost the defense anyways. So I just want to have as much special defense as possible, which is totally fine. But yeah, I would maybe a little more physical.
yep. Next up is Choice Scarf Max Attack, almost max speed, Jolly Brute Bonnet to outspeed max speed Garchomp with that scarf. Crunch and Seed Bomb are its stab moves, with Close Combat as coverage and Spore as utility option. I'm honestly not really sure how I feel about this set. I mean, Grass is just a pretty bad type into Nate's team, and Dark and Fighting are okay. I just think this is going to need a lot of chip from the rest of the team to do well. It's just not doing that much damage to things. I think like Seed Bomb doesn't even like Oko max HP Azumarill. So it's definitely more of like a late game cleaner, which I think is can be awkward. Obviously, like late game cleaning is a great use for a scarf, but I think the middle of the game, I'm not sure how much use he's going to get from this, aside from, putting something to sleep with Spore. Terra Water is fine as a good defensive type, but again, I don't see, kind of what the plan for that is or this Pokemon is. I don't know. Is there something I'm not seeing here that you are?
No, I mean, I think this is definitely my least favorite set on both teams. First of all, I think Brute Bonnet is too slow to be an effective choice Scarfer. At least for me, like kind of Tyranitar, which I believe has 62 or 65 base speed, is kind of like the absolute like slowest mon that I would really consider for a choice Scarfer, unless you're going for some very like niche strategy. I mean, I would bet that this outspeeds maybe max speed Garchomp. If I had to guess,
It
I'd say
does,
that's what
yeah.
he's going for. Um, but like, like you're going to use your Spore, and then the whole point of Spore is you get a free turn, but then you just have to switch out. You know what I mean? So you still have to basically guess what your opponent's going to switch into. I think Hydreigon would have been a much better choice Scarfer than this. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it has a similar typing. It's dark, but it doesn't have the horrible 4 times bug weakness. It has a much better speed tier. You can spam Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse as U-turn for pivoting. Like I think I like the scarf, but to me, Brute Bonnet isn't really a choice scarf. You know, when you put a scarf on it, it's basically the same as having like a 105 base speed mon or whatever.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I don't think it's like I just don't see what it brings to the table besides like Hydreigon, like besides Spore. But again, like I think with the choice scarf, you're kind of neutering yourself with Spore. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got, yeah, like I said, like the moves aren't terrible. I just don't see exactly what the plan for it is. It just seems like well, it'll probably be good at some point during the match kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
Something I do see the plan for is a Spothra with heavy HP and defense investment with enough speed to outspeed the Bouffalant's whole roster after a speed boost. Protect guarantees that boost with Calm Mind, Stored Power, and Dazzling Gleam, letting it hit hard once it gets some of those boosts up. Terra Dark is a really interesting choice here. It resists Ghost moves from Goldengo and Dark moves from Wo-Chien, while having Protect to dodge First Impression from Slitherwing. I think I might have leaned Terra Grass though, as Wo-Chien can always click Ruination, but this way, and that way you resist Aqua Jet and are immune to Leech Seed. I don't know. I mean, it's nice to be able to resist the Shadow Balls, but you're not really doing much back to that Goldengo with resisted moves. Anyway, I do like the physical bulk, though, here, which should let it set up on plenty of things, and, you know, if the opposing priority and that Goldengo are dealt with, this, you know, has a great chance at sweeping. What do you think about a Spothra here?
I think it's a pretty solid set. I would agree maybe that the Terra could be better. I don't really know what would be the most likely Terra on this team, though. I have kind of a hard time, you know, looking at. I guess maybe that's a problem too, is it doesn't really seem like there's any obvious Terra abusers. Like obviously a Spothra could do it in a pinch if you needed some defensive boost, but like I feel like maybe Palmot would be the one
Mm-hmm.
with just for double shock, but I
Yeah.
still think that's maybe a little niche. One thing I will comment is, and I learned this from our match last season, is if you speed your mon so it outspeeds the whole team at +1, that means that at +2 you'll probably underspeed some choice scarfers though, because if you think about the math, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're slightly over them at 1 when you're at 1.5, when you go to 2, you're basically at like one and a third. So if they have
Uh-huh.
any choice scarfers, they'll kind of outspeed you. So I maybe would have run a little bit more speed on that. Unless it's some like really like MLG calcs for something. So like I would have probably targeted, I want to be able to outspeed all the scarfers at +2. So
Yeah. I mean, I think like with Protect on it, I think it's not too bad. You know, you think of, you have the bulk so that you can live one hit while you set up a Calm Mind, and then you have Protect to get a second speed boost. It's not terrible, and you know, you can get like more speed boost from there, but yeah, I can see
mhm.
how like that could potentially be awkward later on in the match. Next is the hero himself, though, Max Attack Adamant Banded Palafin with enough speed to outspeed Max Speed Goldengo. Jet Punch is strong priority, while Wave Crash smashes slower mons, with Drain Punch offering some sustain and close combat smacking Wo-Chien. Terra Normal is very funny as a way to be immune to Shadow Ball from Goldengo, but that does seem really niche compared to just Terra Water or Fighting to boost the attacks. I also question a little bit having two fighting moves here, as I think just Flip Turn is so nice on banded sets. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think is Palafin allowed to Terra? I thought that
Oh,
was
you're
why
right.
he
You're
was
never mind.
Terra.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm just bad. Forget everything.
Yeah. But yeah, I would agree with the flip turn. I can totally respect the dual water stab. He's one of them's priority and one of them is not. But I think the dual fighting stab is really overkill when you could just get a nice pivot option there with flip turn. I would probably drop drain punch, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know which one, but I think you could kind of think out which one's better. But I think flip turn would be clearly better than having both of those.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I need to look at the calcs again, because I really see, like, it's probably pretty much exclusively for Wo-Chien, you know, being a grass type,
Mm-hmm.
switching into a water move. I could also see, like, even if you didn't want, if you wanted, you know, more coverage options, you know, like Ice Punch for Garchomp or something, um,
Mm-hmm.
would be nice. So yeah, not a terrible set. I think Wave Crash is great here, but we'll see how it ends up doing, what it ends up running into. Donphan is coming too, though, with max attack Adamant and almost max speed, letting it outspeed max speed Goldengo after a rapid spin. Stealth Rock and Rapid Spin are standard, and the combination of Earthquake and Ice Spinner hit 6 Pokemon super effectively, boosted further by the Expert Belt. Rapid Spin is a bold include here, as Goldengo can block it and hit hard on the special side, although it, of course, is scared of Earthquake. Terra Water here is a cool way, though, to suddenly resist the Make It Rain that would usually be an OHKO if Sturdy is broken and KO back with that Earthquake. With no real bulk investment, I wonder how many hits this mana is going to be able to take, though, so I think it's going to have to be played pretty carefully to hit back with those big attacks. I think that's probably the one thing that I was really excited to see how Non-Fan did at the beginning of the season, but it just seems so slow that you want the attack, you want the HP, and it just never seems to stick around long enough to spin as frequently as you'd like it to, or to get as many hits off. What do you think about Donphan here?
Yeah, I think it's an okay set. I guess like it kind of reminds me of the Brute Bonnet a little bit. Like you're like trying so hard to make a slow mon into a fast mon, and like I just don't think it's the best fit for it. Like I think a defensive set would have been much more. I mean, it would have been more useful. Like like is it? I mean, maybe Extra Belt does something for you in particular, but like, or even if you wanted to do like max HP, adamant, max attack with leftovers, I think that would have been helpful.
Yeah,
But
I mean, like, if you're going in on the spin, something like Boots to keep Sturdy up,
mhm.
or a Resist Berry or something. Yeah, I think the Expert Belt is a little strange to me, but I mean, I do think this thing could get some pretty big hits in if he can position it well. It's just without the bulk, how often is he going to be able to do that? And lastly, we have Life Orb Palmot with max attack and almost max speed Jolly, letting it outspeed max speed Garchomp. Double Shock in close combat are powerful stabs, with Terra Electric letting it get off multiple double shocks. Ice Punch smacks Garchomp, and Revival Blessing gives something like a Rage Fist boosted Annihilate or that Palafin a second shot at cleaning up. Volt Absorb over Iron Fist is very interesting. It shows he's worried about electric attacks, but I'm not sure if that's from the Toxtricity, since this set really only has Ice Punch to hit back with, or if it's for something like a covering move like Thunderbolt on Goldengo. What do you think this Palmot's here for?
I think it's just a standard offensive set with Revival Blessing. I think it's fine. I would maybe either run Expert Belt or like the electric 20% plate over Life Orb though, because I feel like with Revival Blessing, you're really counting on being able to live a hit, or even with just a little bit of health left. So like I think the 10% Life Orb chip really adds up, unless you're going for something very particular with that. That's my only comment would be probably the item.
Yeah. All right, well, that's both teams. I'd say that I like the Bouffalant's sets more, but I also think, we saw some pretty big Garganical prep there, and it's not even coming, which, is pretty interesting. It's such a good mon. Any comments you have on the two teams before we head into the match?
Yeah, say I appreciate the meta prep from the Incineroar and not bringing the Garganackle, because you have to. I think sometimes it's worth thinking about like what your opponents will prepare for, and does this mean that you should kind of mix up a little bit? Because is Garganackle a good mon? Yes, I would say it's probably better than Donphan, probably better than Brute Bonnet, probably better than even maybe Pawmon in terms of like how good it is, quote unquote. But like when your opponent's going to prepare their team for it, it becomes less useful. So I think I can respect the decision not to bring it.
All right, well, let's head into the match and see how it all goes down. All right, and here we are looking at the match here at Team Preview. Well, I think, we kind of said it before, the Bouffalant exert a lot more instantaneous pressure that the Incin are really going to have to navigate to get some of those setup mons to get those boosts that they want. I have to say, late game Annihilate looks really scary, though, if that Goldengo is dealt with and it can avoid some status. Any mons you see here that you expect to stand out in particular?
I mean, just kind of what we talked with the team. As far as leads, obviously Nate is going to lead Toxtricity. I could see on the Incineroar side, maybe Annihilate, Brute Bonnet, or Pawmot. I think Pawmot might be a little early to lead though, because you probably want to count it for the Revival Blessing early. So I could see Brute Bonnet for maybe like a surprise quick spore. Like suppose the Bouffalant lead like a Pivot Mon, like Toxtricity, or the bug one. I don't remember its name, Slithering.
Yeah.
And you could kind of outspeed it and get like a spore off, which could be cool. And then obviously Annihilate is just kind of an early breaker sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see. We know the Toxtricity is the lead for the Bouffalant, and yeah, I could see the bonnet, you might not want to reveal the scarf right away, but I do like the instantaneous spore. However, you could also just go straight for Palafin to, get activating Zero to Hero out of the way, but with all of the, scary things that could lead, Goldango, Azumarill, stuff like that, it could be pretty scary to put yourself already on the back foot trying to switch out turn one against a potential threat. Well, let's see what they go for here. We're going to see it is, in fact, Annihilate and the Toxtricity. This should be pretty easy Toxic Spikes, I would expect, but he actually just goes for the Overdrive, which does decent damage, but we did see that the decent amount of speed investment on the Annihilate there meant that it goes first, so didn't get the Rage Fist boost the first time, but it is going to get it now. What do you think about the first turn? I am a bit surprised not to just see the Toxic Spikes right away.
Yeah, I'm also kind of surprised at that, especially if you're counting on outspeeding, because you would either be dealing with a very weak Rage Fist or like a bulk up or something, right? And if you get a weak Rage Fist, who cares? You get a free Toxic Spikes, and if you get a bulk up, you can encore it the next turn. So I would have probably, I think Toxic Spikes would have maybe been a better play there, but it's supposed to be the chip damage. I mean, it is a decent chunk, 30, 36 or 26%, I guess. But, with leftovers and the fact that you're powering your Rage Fish, I don't know if it's that compelling of a trade.
Yeah. I guess he could also, it's nice to scout out that it is, bulky, especially offensive, but yeah. Well, let's see what happens. We can see the lefty's recovery, and turn 2, there's the bulk up from the Annihilate, and there is the Toxic Spikes from Toxtricity. Awkward that the Toxtricity doesn't outspeed and can, encore that bulk up. Nate was probably hitting himself during the match because he messed up that speed, but we know that this Annihilate is even faster, so it's not that big a deal. But, with just that set of Toxic Spikes up, that's so nice for, Ape if it switches out a Spoth or a Donphan, Brute Bonnet, it's just really nice here.
Yep, I agree. And I would definitely see a switch out this turn, probably to, well, actually, I guess he could just sack it. I don't know. It is, yeah, actually, scratch that. I don't think a switch out would be good because whatever it comes in would take a chip. He could maybe go Wo-Chien, but I guess this is maybe you're at your sack your dedicated lead point. Maybe the only thing I could see would be Wo-Chien coming in.
Yeah, I think it would be, I think, I think preserving Toxtricity is nice, but since it's got the bulk up and it has a Rage Fist boost already, it's really awkward trying to switch into it with his team. Rage Fist, of course, is, going to chunk anything that's not Wo-Chien, but, also Overdrive isn't doing that much, so, he could just start spamming Drain Punch to try and actually, get some more boosts from this Toxtricity, but of course, Nate could just click more spikes, so I think an interesting little mind game we've got here going on into turn 3. We're going to see that he does, in fact, just let the Toxtricity go down to the Rage Fist, Matt not risking another layer of Toxic Spikes up, and Azumarill comes out, and wow, Play Rough looks scary.
Yep, I think Play Rough looks really strong. Does he even have any resists? I don't see any resists.
No. Nope.
Yeah. So yeah, I would probably just do that. I'm pretty sure it's a guaranteed KO. I think I ran the calcs when I was reviewing this.
Yeah, it is. It is an OKO from even at the +1 there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if I'm Matt, I think I probably just punch this.
You need damage off on it, and you don't have a whole lot of great options to do that. Anything's getting smacked trying to hit it.
And you also don't know that, he doesn't know that it's banded, so I believe not banded is not.
If this thing goes for a belly drum, that's absolutely devastating. At that point, I guess you have Palafin, but it's not 0 to hero, and it resists the wave crash, and that's bad news bears right there. So we're going to see going on here, Rage Fist doing very big damage, and the Play Rough comes out, but misses. We just said it was a guaranteed KO there. That's pretty devastating here. Azu looked amazing in this match.
Guaranteed KO, more like 90% KO. Am I right?
True.
I would say that, like, obviously the miss sucks because it would have taken out the Annihilate. I don't know how great Azu would have been though with that much chip damage. I think Matt's entire team outspeeds it. So I think if it was that low, it probably could have. I mean, maybe get some Aqua Jets off later, but that would be about it.
Yeah, but I mean, like you'd still like getting the Aqua Jets,
Yeah.
and stuff. You'd be getting the value
Yeah.
later on. But I think it's more just like
Well, it's
letting
more
this
just
thing potentially go down without picking up
yeah.
any KOs. Is
Yeah.
that's the real big disappointment.
Yeah. And the fact that you still have a basically full health boosted Annihilate.
Yeah, who's just getting more lefties recovery. So we're seeing here that Nate doesn't want to let Azu go down, switching to Wo Chien, who absolutely swallows that Rage Fist, showing it's the physically defensive set here. And now, now he's got the mind game of Rage Fist, Stay Dark, Drain Punch, Terra, knockoff Ruination Leech Seed. He's not out of the woods yet by any stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rage Fist was the right play there. I don't think there was any point in predicting a switch out, especially because like the Azu was so strong.
Oh yeah.
Versus you. I don't know. Like I would honestly just go for a taunt this turn if I was Cat Measles. Because I think speed. As far as what Wo-Chien should do, I'm pretty sure I could still take a Drain Punch relatively well. I mean, obviously, it doesn't want to keep taking them, and the recovery isn't a huge deal for the Annihilate because it's already near full. So I would maybe go for like a Ruination or a Leech Seed here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would go for a Leech Seed here, but we do see the taunt tech that does in fact stop that Leech Seed play I was just talking about, and now it's Annihilate has a Rage Fist boost and a bulk up and has taken no damage. That's this mon it's a Pokemon, all right. So we'll have to see how the Bouffalant plan to play this. You've still got Ruination, it does boost Rage Fist and does have lefties, but I think at this point you really are just trying to get as much chip to stick to this thing so that you can revenge it later.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, I think the goal would be to probably get in Golden Ghost Shadow Ball range. I think that would be a good goal, maybe.
Yep.
But
all right, so we see turn 7. Drain Punch does big damage, about half of what it had left, and the knockoff critical hit is nice. Gets rid of those lefties, puts Annihilate down into a decent range there. And we do see that trying to keep it down in that range, we'll see Nate goes for a Terra into the Ghost type to be immune to the Drain Punch next turn. But I might as well finish this turn. Spoiler! He chose to go for bulk up that turn, so oh boy, that's awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the crit was a really big deal there. Like I don't want to, because
oh yeah,
you're looking at turning maybe a 20% hit into like a 40% hit. Because like I think this Annihilate could have probably just stayed in here and just kept tanking things all day. Or at least pretty much finished off at this Wo-Chien next turn without that. But I don't even. Does Wo-Chien have Ruination? Maybe I misquoted
it does,
that.
and
yeah.
In fact, finish it out. We do see it just goes for it there, which that means that the crit isn't quite as big because you would have gotten some of that extra damage back on that Ruination. But I'm guessing that Matt was trying to kind of guess the Wo-Chien set because like if it just has something like Giga Drain and knockoff, then like what's it doing to this Annihilate? Basically nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally understand the bulk up there.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think Matt's still in a really good position with this because, I mean, he can just KO this next turn. I think Rage Fist is very free. I would doubt anything on his team would live it.
Oh, yeah.
And
so we'll go on and we'll see that taunt ends and he actually goes out to sack the Azumarill to the Drain Punch. Maybe he was just worried about Matt getting greedy and going for more bulk ups. At least then you could get some Aqua Chip, Jet Chip, not give a whole bunch of HP back from a Drain Punch after that. But
I
Oh no,
mean, honestly, I feel like he had to sack him on there,
oh
and
he
I
did
think Wo Chien's
100%.
more useful to keep alive because, as I mentioned, I think Azu gets outsped by the whole team. It's maybe useful for Aqua Jets, but I think Wo Chien you could at least use as a spin blocker and maybe try and leech seed back up later if you wanted.
Yeah, no, I think I looked at the calcs earlier and yeah, like Aquajet spam, I mean it was doing, like 30 to 50% at most to neutral targets. So I mean like that's not bad, I mean like 30%
Mhm.
on defensive boosting Espathra is nice, 50% on the Palmot is nice, but yeah, it didn't have a whole lot of uses and with the Terra Ghost, obviously Wo-Chien is not as good here, not resisting the water type attacks, being weak to the ghost, the dark. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it at least is very bulky and like can get a leech seed or a ruination off on something, which is probably a bigger deal.
Mhm. Yeah.
But here we have Goldango out here, and at low health and with the toxic spike up, Matt just lets Ape go down here, getting an extra Rage Fist boost in case it gets revived later. And with this special attack drop there from the Make It Rain, Brute Bonnet gets poisoned, but comes in pretty free here, though. Although now, of course, with the Scarf, you do get into the mind games of, is he going to go for Spore? Is Nate going to stay in predicting a Spore? Is he going to switch out? It's a little bit of mind game here. What do you think about the situation they found themselves in?
I think it was a free switch in for Matt. I think the toxic spike is going to be a big deal, just because I think they have pretty limited removal and good spin blocking options. I would probably click Spore here just because, like, if I'm Nate, there's no way I think that this is a Scarf Root Bonnet.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would probably just break the switch out and click Spore and try and get a Spore off, especially because like I don't even know what they would go here, but it's probably not Wo Chien, so you could probably get one of the big threats on the team, put sleep, which would just be kind of like a nice feather in your cap after you've already taken out two mons. So
Yeah, I mean it's awkward if you stay in Clickspore. Obviously, you're locked in.
mhm.
It'd be awkward to reveal it, but also you don't know that he's also scarfed. So
Yeah.
that's very funny. And if he stays in and it's just at minus special attack, obviously except for like focus blast, or maybe dazzling gleam or some weird terra option, make it rain is its best option here against brute bonnet. And if it keeps lowering its special attack, even if you have to switch out next turn, it's not as bad then. And yeah, a spore is just rather nice here. So we'll see what he goes for. Nate does switch out into the Slitherwing, resisting both the stabs and easily eats up that crunch. And of course, now threatens a big bug move in return. Certainly not going to stay in here with the Brute Bonnet. Who do you go into here?
I don't know. I mean, I maybe Don fan. I feel like Don fan's the least useful member of the team, but like I feel like this is where you kind of have to risk it for the biscuit.
Mm-hmm.
I think a Spore there would have been huge, and I mean, I don't know if it would have sealed the match for Matt, but I think it would have put him in a really amazing position.
Yeah, I mean, you get uh, the you're gonna waste the potential first impression turn. You go out into. I mean, at the worst, that gets you your Palfin activation. Um, the
Yeah.
the Goldengo is healthy enough that the Espathra is a little awkward. Like Terrafire or something like on the Espathra would have been nice, but
Mhm.
um, obviously it can't run all three of those coverage moves: Call of Mind and Protect. Lumina Crash could have been actually really interesting, but this is the set he went for, and this is the situation he's found himself in. So he's gonna have to make a play here. We're gonna see he does go out into that Don fan, relatively physically defensive naturally, takes under half from that first impression, but does go to under half after that poison damage.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be worried about this. Like I think really any move from the uh, the Slither is probably a KO now. I would either go EQ or Rapid Spin depending on what you're predicting your opponent to do. I feel like EQ would probably be better because I think if you stay in, you're likely going to die. Like, I think if Slitherwing stays in, you're probably going to die this turn, so it doesn't matter what you clicked. So, like, I think if you're predicting a switch out, I think EQ would maybe be good, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a very just free close combat from the Slitherwing properly, although, I mean, you're doing a bunch with U-turn anyway, so maybe you turn it out.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it's definitely, you're probably expecting Donphan to go down here.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see, he does go for the U-turn, which doesn't KO. We'll put it in range of that poison damage. But now Wo-Chien is here. Nice being that Ghost type will be bulky enough to eat that Earthquake. Ghost type to block a potential spin. And Poison will take it out. And here's our Palafin activation here. And man, wouldn't it be nice if he had Flip Turn right now?
I agree. I think that this turn makes it very clear how nice Flip Turn would be. Because you're either KOing the Wo-Chien or you're getting switch advantage and doing a lot of chip to whatever comes in. So.
Yep. So he does have a little bit of, like, obviously, you know, without the hero mode, not doing as much damage. But I mean, like, Wave Crash is still going to smack something. But you're taking recoil, you're taking poison. You probably just switch out here, I imagine.
Yeah, I would honestly maybe go for the KO on the Wo-Chien just to avoid taking whatever it's going to do. But well, I guess I just protected.
He goes out into the Brute Bonnet, as we do see the Protect from the Wo-Chien. Probably just trying to get some extra Toxic Stall, some poison damage on that Palafin, expecting something like a Flip Turn. So in this case, the Heart Switch worked out for him. But he's right back, you know, where he is. Do you just go for the crunch? Do you predict the Slitherwing coming in? Pretty interesting.
I'd probably go for the crunch. I think Spore is a maybe, but I think crunch is free-ish. So, but yep. I do think a problem is though is if the Slitherwing comes in, you're basically gonna have to stack something again. So that's but like if I was Nate here, I'd probably just stack this Wo-Chien. So I don't know. I mean, I would just go for the crunch for the KO. But.
We'll see here. Poison damage there. And he does go for the Spore. Unfortunate. It would have been nice to catch that Slitherwing. Not the biggest... if I'm Nate, you know, I'm pretty happy to have a 16% Wo-Chien asleep.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Spore was fine there. It at least gives him switch advantage or the opportunity to not have the opponent get a free Slitherwing switch in. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little awkward for him. I'd probably go... I don't know, do you go, like, Palmot here? I mean, Wave Crash is really nice, but if he goes out into something like Garchomp, like, that could be just, like, a whole bunch of recoil and damage you're taking on your Palafin then. So it's a little interesting.
I feel like maybe Palmot will be good here because you could try and get a Revival Blessing. I mean, I don't know how well Palmot would take a Shadow Ball from Golden Go, but other than that, I think it has speed on everything, so you should at least be able to do something there. So
yep. So we're going to see what they choose to go for. With the Spore Threat out of the way, both coaches are actually going to switch here into Palafin and Slitherwing, respectively. This is a little bit of an awkward situation for Matt, because, you know, you could kill the Slitherwing, which is pretty scary with Wave Crash here, but between the recoil from that, the poison damage, and first impression, you could actually just end up going down to poison at the end of the turn, but also Wave Crash kill a thing. So, a little awkward.
I think I would probably maybe go for a Jet Punch here, because I think Jet Punch would still KO, right? Because isn't Slitherwing... Or maybe it wouldn't. I don't know.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I looked at the Calcan Wave Crash kills, and Jet Punch is the base power of half a Wave Crash, so it should.
Yeah.
You're a little... You still take a fair amount of poison damage from the extra turn, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Jet Punch or Wave Crash here would be decent, though.
Yeah. No, I think either. And I think, kind of like we had said before, I definitely think that Matt should probably be playing a little aggressive here. With the... he really just needs, like, chip on that Goldango is really what he needs to be looking for.
Yeah, because
Because
I feel
Espathra
like
looks
Espathra
really
looks
good.
good. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, something like Palmont, like yeah, he just needs to get things out of the way so he can force in the healthy stuff, I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we'll see here. Is Nate's gonna save the Slitherwing probably for that Brute Bonnet in particular. And so he's just going to sack the Wochian there, get a little extra poison damage, a little bit of recoil there on the Palafin. And here is Goldango. This is a little awkward, because you see Goldango, you see Garchomp there. Um, Probably by far the best switch there, unless you're like going for like first impression damage. But we've seen the damage; it's not going to KO him there. So like this probably suggests pretty heavily Scarf, and then you're wondering, well, what is he going to try and do there with the Scarf? Um, And like I don't think Shadow Ball KOs here. So are you predicting the coverage move? Or are you just predicting, he's just essentially trying to get Wave Crash Chip or force some Jet Punches out? But it is a little bit of an awkward situation here to see the Goldango come out and not the Garchomp, which probably outspeeds this.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, I think maybe he's looking at this and seeing a good opportunity to get Chip on the Golden Go, but I feel like this is a somewhat easy Scarf read. And like I don't to me like my win con if I'm him at this point is Chip on Golden Go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like Brute Bonnet and Pawmont aren't necessarily doing a huge amount at this point. I would maybe argue Brute Bonnet is doing the least out of them. So like I feel like a Brute Bonnet switch here would be very safe, and then you could go chip something with Jet Punch, like Banded Jet Punch or whatever you wanted to do.
Yep.
So
Well, we'll see what happens here. And he gets caught out by the Scarf Thunderbolt. Man, that is unfortunate because the Jet Punches looked really good for the rest of the match here.
mm-hmm.
But of course, we know it's Volt Absorb. Of course, he just revealed the Scarf. Volt Absorb Palmot here. This is a free Revival Blessing, probably? Or do you make the prediction and, try and get Chip on something, knowing that, hey, whatever he switches into, you're going to outspeed. You can get the Revival Blessing off next turn.
I would maybe go for Revival Blessing this turn, Chip next turn, personally, just because then you'll know what's in front of you. Although I guess you have to get in the meta realm of like maybe they'll switch out again, because I mean like I think it's like it's electric or fighting, so I think it's if you get it wrong, it's kind of not a great turn. But yeah, whatever.
Yep. So well, let's see what he decides to pick here. And we see Garchomp come out, probably expecting a double shock, but he predicts and goes for the Ice Punch Yachi Berry, saving the Garchomp from not death, but near certain death. I'm not sure. Actually, I didn't calc that. I don't know if it was a roll to KO without that berry, but without that berry, that Chomp would have still lived that particular damage roll, at least. And yeah, getting the Revival Blessing off earlier would have been nice, although of course he got the best result out of that play he could, which is damage and berry gone on that Garchomp.
Yeah, so like on this turn I would honestly probably go for KOing the Garchomp, like because I feel like you can still get so like my plan if I'm him, I would go KO Garchomp, sack Root Bonnet, do Revival Blessing. You know what I mean? Because your Pawmot would outspeed the Slitherwing. Like, okay, so basically here's what I'm thinking, right? So you KO the Garchomp, then you get revenge by Golden Go, right?
Sure. Although after the poison, you might also be in range of first impression.
Yeah. But I guess that's fair. I don't know, but I feel like you could swing it. You know what I mean? Like I think you could swing doing the Revival Blessing later, and I think like if this goes down, Garchomp outspeeds the rest of your team. Like and then you have this Garchomp still alive that's going to get this huge hit off on whatever comes in before it goes down.
Yeah, looks like Slitherwing does 45% max to this Pawmot. So
I think it
Yeah,
would have.
you can easily with another turn of you can take another turn of poison damage and still guaranteed live that.
Yeah, I don't know about Rocky Rough Skin though, maybe,
True.
but
Um,
plus life orb.
yeah. Well, that's we saw like that was here, man. That yeah, he took a third of his health in recoil there from the life orb, rough
Yeah,
skin, uh, everything there, and the poison damage. Yeah. So whoo. But yeah, I mean, your revival blessing here and let something go down, but also, I mean, what HP is like Brute Bonnet? I think would could be a decent switch in here. Um,
hmm
you get a spore off. There's gonna be probably opportunities to get a revival blessing off later, and I
yeah,
think this offensively, like this Palmot is way more useful than Brute Bonnet here at this end
yeah.
game.
I agree.
Um, But he goes for the Revival Blessing. He goes for the Palafin. What do you think about going for the Palafin? I mean, the Palafin or the Annihilate were the only two options. Annihilate, of course, is weak to that Goldengo, but has gotten several Rage Fist boosts. Um, are
I I definitely like the Palafin. I feel like my angle to win here would be I want to get Jet Punch chip on stuff and then sweep with a Spothra.
mhm.
And I think the Jet Punch helps with that. I feel like a 50% Annihilate is much less useful than 100% Annihilate. And you're also missing your leftovers. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so he still has his Terra, so he is specially defensive. I think he lives a Goldango attack if he Terras, and then of course can KO back with Rage Fist, which clears that up for the Espathra. But the question is, get how do you get that turn against the Goldango?
hmm
But of course he knows it's specially defensive, and it's especially since it'll get poisoned. It's going to start being in range of things like an EQ from Chomp or something.
hmm yeah, I feel like the poison is really added up in this.
The toxic spikes, like we had both said at the beginning, are absolutely huge here, especially since the like you point out the ability to block spin here, for the Bouffalant just the Incineroar really had no shot from the beginning of denying these toxic spikes, and we've seen them
Yeah.
rack up a lot of damage. So, of course, after the Revival Blessing, he's just going to get knocked out by the EQ, and he goes into the Espathra here, which is interesting. Probably a bit premature because the Goldango is at 100%, and with stored power and Dazzling Gleam as your only attacks, you're not gonna break through that. Um, so
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I could even see. I don't know what the Jet Punch roll is, but I could see there being a pretty solid win con here. I mean, I don't know how the chip damage all adds up in that, but like, I think you could go Palafin, Jet Punch, and then if they go Golden Go, you just Jet Punch again. But then if they go Slither Wing, you can just go sack Brute Bonnet and then come in and Jet Punch, or like do something like that. But yeah, I agree. I think the Espathra is a little premature because there's no
yeah,
ways
I
getting
mean,
Brute Bonnet
I
to go.
probably sending in the Brute Bonnet right away is awkward because I mean you force like a pretty hard call from Nate there because having something get put to sleep is pretty scary for him here, especially
Yeah.
with something like the Slither Wing. But he, of course, the only thing immune to that sleep would be Goldingo, which doesn't want to switch in on a crunch.
Yeah.
So I don't know
I
whatever
could.
the play was. I don't think it was a Spathra,
Yeah.
unless he's gonna just like
Honestly,
go. Unless he wants to actually just like go straight for like the raw Dazzling Gleam, and just say, all right, my end game is no longer a Spathra, it is Jet Punch.
yeah.
And I'm trying to get I'm just going in. I'm gonna start getting speed boosts. I have protect, and just start trying to chip everything else for that Palafin, which I don't think is terrible, honestly.
Yeah. But we'll see.
We'll see though. He's going to, with his bulky investment, easily take that Earthquake, get up that Calm Mind, and after the poison, be just above half, getting that speed boost here. So he's going for something. He goes for a protect on the follow-up turn, which is interesting. I mean, that's just an extra turn of poison damage he's taking there instead of just clicking Dazzling Gleam there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dazzling was clearly the best play there. You're right. It's the same result. You just get one less turn of
I
poison
mean,
damage. So.
maybe he's, looking ahead to the Goldengo and just being like, I need to get as many boosts as I can up on this Garchomp. And then, I'll be able to hit the Goldengo for a little bit more. But we'll see how it plays out for him. Slowly losing a little bit of health from that poison. There's Dazzling Gleam, gets the KO. And we're going to see a little more chip, a little more speed, and very smart here from Nate. Not going into Slithering, just being like, first impression, KO, easy. Knowing that if this Espathra has anything to touch this Goldengo, then it's game. So you might as well just send it out now, knowing that, well, it can't have it. It can't protect, get a protect, and then kill my Slitherwing, and just keep it honest. If it doesn't have Terrify or something, then it's just gone. And actually, wait, no, we haven't seen Stored Power, so he basically knows the set.
Yeah, it'd be pretty weird if it wasn't Stored Power.
It would be pretty weird if it wasn't Stored Power. So yeah, he knows that this thing really can't do anything, and we're gonna see, well, what can Espathra do to a Goldengo? 33%.
Yeah.
Make It Rain there. Of course, the covers, it's his best option if, like Brute Bonnet switched in there trying to preserve the Espathra, which honestly, like, probably wouldn't be terrible. Like, if he goes, switches to Brute Bonnet there, he's forcing special defense drops, and you're looking for, I guess, I don't know, your end game is Palafin, but I think he's just looking a little low on offensive resources, because either for that Espathra or that Palafin, something needs to take another Pokemon down pretty low here. I just don't see Brute Bonnet doing it for him.
I mean, I don't know how much Jet Punch does to Goldengo, but I don't know. I could see maybe going Brute Bonnet here and then just going for Crunch and then basically making Slitherwing kill you. I don't know, or maybe you still die to first impression.
It could be that. So I don't know what calcing Matt was doing during the match. Here, the two sets that are actually in the match, Jet Punch does 65% max to Goldengo. So maybe, he just, didn't have the exact amount of bulk on the Goldengo down, and was just hoping for a Jet Punch roll.
Yeah.
That's certainly pretty possible.
Maybe.
We're going to see him go out into the Palafin. Jet Punch there, like I said, it actually barely didn't KO there, but it actually could never KO. Make It Rain, already lower special attack, doing just enough to put this Palafin in range of one more turn of poison. And, well, he can't really stay in Jet Punch because Scarf Brute Bonnet just loses to Slitherwing. Although he still has his Terra, so that is something, I guess. But we're gonna see.
I mean,
yep.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say, I think Nate probably has him back at this point, but we'll see.
It's pretty close. I mean, Make It Rain spam is pretty free here. We're gonna see, even with it keep lowering its special attack, that poison is doing so much work here. You see, Brute Bonnet is actually in range of another Make It Rain, even after all those attack drops. Terra Water here, though, like I said, he saved it right till the end. He lives that one and can at least bring it to 1 mon apiece here after the poison damage takes them both down. We're going to see Slitherwing, and of course, Palafin, only one's left. Palafin's got one turn of life, doesn't even go for the jet punch. First impression comes out, and that is the game to
Yeah.
Illogic and the Buffalo Bouffalants.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think he might have gone for a jet punch there because I think first impression has
oh,
higher
first
priority.
impression might be
It's
plus
plus
two.
two.
It could be. I could
Yeah.
just not know what I'm talking
Right.
about. But yeah, I mean, it was really that was really impressive to see Nate clutch that out after the big play rough miss, essentially just sacking his Azumarill for him.
Yeah.
But like it was all on the back of those toxic spikes. Like Toxicity went down earlier, but easy MVP. Those spikes just did an insane amount of work.
Yeah, no, I think the toxic spikes were huge, and then I think, like you're talking about, like Nate just had to recognize this is my win con. If he can handle this, I'm not going to win, so I'm just going to go for this, and then it ended up working out. I think there was maybe a couple opportunities on the Incineroar side to maybe do a couple turns better, especially given the fact that I think they had, some pretty solid luck in their favor in the beginning. But overall, it's still a really good match. 1-0 is nothing to sneeze at.
Oh yeah, no, that was really close and a really good match. I think, yeah, it after the beginning, I think that match was a really hard match to play, especially from Matt's side, because you kind of go up there at the beginning with the poor luck on the play rough miss, and you get that advantage, and it's really with the team he brought there and Nate's expert switching around and forcing the Incineroar to make switches. It's really hard to know, when to be aggressive and push that advantage, and when you're just kind of opening yourself up to, kind of taking some losses here and there, chip damage, racking up poison damage, stuff like that. And I think Nate just played it really well. Was able to just stall out the game long enough for that poison to rack up enough damage to eventually give him the win there. I wonder how much damage those spikes actually probably did. Easily a full Pokemon's worth, maybe like a Pokemon and a half.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But yeah, no, that was honestly a very good game from both coaches. Really showing just how random the Pokemon can be, and how no matter what happens, there can be a path back. I won't say there always is, but there can be a path back. So thanks to both of our coaches for giving us that great battle. Thank you again for joining me today, Chad. Really enjoying this team up we're doing for these post-game matches.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. And of course, thanks to you at home for watching. Please check out the description for content from some of our coaches. Like, comment, and subscribe. Do whatever YouTube wants. Go have a nice dinner. Go have a nice drink. Go take a nap. Honestly, take a nap. Take a nap's pretty much my modus operandi with my free time these days. It's just getting warm out. Just puts me to sleep, man. But anyway, that's enough from us here, and I will see you next time for another feature match as we start getting into the conference finals and then, eventually, championship match. See you then.